Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a new episode of the Penscast recap show. It is me, your host here, Robbie, um, as always, and I'm joined by co-host Snail. And we're going to we have two games to cover tonight, both 3-2 finals from the Penguins over the weekend. One good, one bad. And we will start with the bad on Friday night, November 24th. The Penguins went to Buffalo, a little post Thanksgiving feast for Penguins fans, and it started out good but ended poorly. And before we get into the goals, Snail, um, not the way the Penguins need to close out games, blowing a 2-goal lead in the third period and ultimately losing in regulation to the Sabres.
Yeah, not how you wanted the post Thanksgiving game to go at all. The Buffalo Sabres are one of these teams that the Penguins will be fighting for playoff position alongside. They have almost identical records. I mean, not identical, but close to the same. You were hoping that the Penguins would be able to kind of lock this one down. They had the early lead, and then all of those bad habits, including an own goal by Erik Karlsson, lead to the Pens ultimately falling to the Sabres. And not what you like to see. It infuriates me. The power play continues to stink. In fact, worked against them more than for them momentum wise. So let's get into the scoring. But you could chalk it up to a massively disappointing game against the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, so scoring wise, Penguins starts well again. Sidney Crosby at 16:46 of the first period gets his 13th of the season from Jake Gensel. It's 1-0 after a period. And then in the second period, almost the exact same time in the second period as the first period, 16:44, Lars Eller, his third of the year from Matt Nieto. It's 2-0 after three, and things are looking good. You're feeling good. Alex Nedeljkovic is playing very well in between the pipes yet again. And this is where things kind of fall apart. A very crucial power play goal from Jeff Skinner breaks a shutout and halves the deficit and gets Buffalo back in the game and gets them some momentum. His goal at 15-13, his ninth of the year. And then at 10:52, Calaposo, um, who records his first of the season to knot the game at 2. And you just start thinking at this point, can the Penguins do anything just to get this game uh, to overtime to at least salvage a point out of this? And it turns out they cannot. At 17-16, Alex Tuck scores what I guess you could call a controversial goal that had to be reviewed, but he gets his sixth of the year from Skinner and Casey Middlestat. It is 3-2 Buffalo. The Penguins do pull the goalie to get an extra attacker, but as with any time they have more men on the ice than the other team, it fails to produce, and the Penguins drop this one 3-2 in Buffalo to fall at this point to 9-10-0 on the season, and a lot just went wrong at the worst time for the Penguins in this game. It just felt like once Skinner got that goal, it just all kind of started to fall apart.
Yep, it definitely felt like this is the game with the ghost hooking call on Gino, right?
I believe so. I'll just check the penalties right now.
They're they're
Yeah, he
they're
had the hooking call in early in the third period that eventually led to Jeff Skinner's
it
game-winning
was
goal,
Skinner's goal.
or
This
not game-winning goal, the one that brought them back within one goal.
when I saw that penalty happen, and it I don't think that was a ghost hooking call. I don't think it was a hook at all. Sullivan was fired up. I was fired up on my couch. I had a bad feeling. I was like, if they score on this, this is, I mean, they'll fold. It's not looking good. And then sure enough, it kind of happens. And those are the predictions you don't want to be right on. This Buffalo team, though, you got to give them credit. They're underperforming right now compared to the expectations they had coming into this season. This is a good team, a good team of they've played this long. It feels like they've been rebuilding since it's like 10 years. But they've acquired a lot of good draft picks. They've got a couple of solid veterans for them. They've got that Jeff Skinner guy who's been a thorn in the Penguins' side, and I thought he forgot how to play hockey a few years ago, but he is back and looking pretty lethal out there, actually. So this team, though, back to the Penguins. I mean, these aren't world beaters. You have a strong showing by Nedeljkovic. I thought he was playing awesome, and I think a lot of like a few of those goals, or a couple of them, I should say, there were only a few goals scored on him in that game. A couple of them weren't even his fault. There was some chaos going on. It's You're not giving your goalie too much of a chance when you're giving up power plays and whatnot, and your power play is producing nothing in front of him. Um, Something's got to change with this power play, man. It's becoming a meme. It's becoming a joke.
Yeah, and again, the performance against the Rangers is probably the most dispiriting, just because. I mean, you lose 1-0 and you're 0 for 5 in the power play. Tristan Jarry plays out of his mind in that game to keep the Penguins within shouting distance to the Rangers, and this vaunted power play with the likes of Crosby, Malkin, Carlson, Letang goes 0 for 5, and just there's the reason you lost that game. And you go back to this game against Buffalo. The Penguins have 4 opportunities on sorry about that. They have 3 opportunities on the power play. 2 of them coming when they're up 1-0. Could have made it 2-0, and then if Eller still makes it 3-0, I feel better about going into that third period with a 3-0 lead than a 2-0 lead. But again, if you get that third goal, that takes a lot of just energy out of the Sabres. And there's a lot. I know the 3-0, it can unravel and you can lose games like that, but I feel like that soaks a lot of that energy and momentum out of the Sabres to make a comeback effort. 2-0, yeah, 1 goal and you're back in it, and they got that 1 goal, but the power play just needs something, anything, and right now it just feels like, and this was the game where they quote unquote experimented with the power play units and still completely disjointed. And I've seen guys like Jesse Marshall and Hunter Hodes talk on Twitter about this, and it's not so much the personnel, it's the design of the power play. It just doesn't matter. It's the system. It's the umbrella, which is old, which is stale, and all teams have to do. They don't even have to watch recent tape. They can watch tape from 4 or 5 seasons ago and see exactly what the Penguins are doing. The players are different, but as long as the system is still garbage, it's not going to matter. And again, something needs to change. I think it has to be a coach. We've harped on Todd Reardon long enough. I think if the Penguins truly want to make an effort to fix this power play, it's got to start there. But something's got to give at some point, because it's completely inexcusable, not just with the talent, but with a clearly failing power play system and strategy, that nothing's being changed, because no matter who you throw out there, it's just not going to work.
I mean, this is getting to the point where it's like, are we going to really dig ourselves a hole in this season? Are we going to watch the Penguins dig themselves a hole this season solely off of special team, solely off the power play? 5-on-5, Sidney Crosby and Gensel are playing phenomenally. They're leading the league in even strength points and goals. It's the power play of all things, and they just keep going back to the well time and time again. And they're tinkering. They're little let's put a couple of the Penguins plumbers out there with the high powered offense. I mean, I get it. That's like a shakeup. I think that's something that might get. But it still doesn't work, and they've done it a few times now, a few different games. They've tried a couple of little swaps, little personnel changes on the units. It hasn't really resulted in anything. This is a team that I feel like when they were winning their back-to-back cups and even afterwards, Sullivan had this team just firing on all cylinders, and I feel like their mantra was just instincts, puck on net, first shot mentality, just pepper goalies with shots. How many times have we seen games where after the first period the Penguins would be pulling away with maybe not winning or maybe not absolutely dominating the team score-wise, but shots on net were just, it was an astronomical outnumbering. And then you're looking at this power play. It's almost like, why don't they just go out there and play like they're playing 5-on-5? Just forget about the whole, the word power play is just, I can't even, I don't even want to hear it anymore. Just throw Gensel, O'Connor, and sit out there with Letang, or I don't even know. I don't know what they do, but you see them, they get the they receive a pass, and they think, it looks like they're thinking pass first, shot second. and a lot of their power plays just look extremely predictable. And with the personnel and the Hall of Famers, whatever we say it at nauseum, it's all become very predictable for the other teams. I think, like you said, you can go back and watch power play footage from Todd Reardon's been the power play coach for 4 years now. So like you could go back 4 years ago and just they don't really change much up. So it's frustrating.
I'm going to say they almost should treat it like it's a 5-on-5 situation. I mean, I know that you can't be like, oh, just throw another defender out there. That doesn't make you can't do that. But maybe you just roll your five lines or your four lines and your three units and play it like a 5-on-5 situation. I mean, you got
There's
to
a
do.
thought.
I mean, that's just more of a mental thing. Just treat it as a 5-on-5 situation. I don't think that's until the strategy of what they put out there 5-on-4 changes that way. I mean, what's it going to hurt to treat it like just tell these guys treat it like a 5-on-5. Let's just roll our normal. Even if you want to shorten up the bench and just make it your three lines and keep the fourth line off the ice, that's fine. But again, we're getting to the point now where the best scoring opportunities on the Penguins power play are coming from the shorthanded team. Um,
Oh
and
yeah.
that's not fair to the goaltenders. That's not fair really to the team as a whole that's playing so good. Andy or Alex Nedeljkovic, who again played a very good hockey game. I mean, you can't really put that loss on him at all because at some point his offense needs to get one of those goals on the man advantage. It's the same thing with Tristan Jarry on Wednesday night. Just completely unfair to Jarry. We can't even like it's not even fair to sit here and say anything bad about Jarry because he's the only run that showed up that night. Um, and played like they wanted to. Again, some of the other guys did play. They had their chances. Jonathan Quick, credit to him as well, played a great game. But there's no reason when 5 power play opportunities, the Penguins at absolute minimum should not have gotten at least a point out of that game. Tristan Jarry plays out of his mind. You have 5 power play opportunities with just an buttload of talent available to you, and you can't even get a goal. And there's kind of the same thing toward against Buffalo. You have an opportunity to take a 3-0 lead into the third period. You don't get it. It's 2-0. They get that early goal. Phantom call or not, it is what it is. Listen, the phantom calls eventually at the end of the season all even themselves out at some point. And guess what? I know, and Buffalo takes advantage of it. Their power play is what got them back in the game. And again, they had 2 even strength goals after that, but it seemed like that power play goal that completely changed the game. The Penguins stopped skating, Buffalo had life, and Buffalo walks away with 2 points, and the Penguins empty-handed on Black Friday. So that was dispiriting, but um, at least that only had lasted 24 hours because we flipped forward to this evening, the 25th, Saturday. The Penguins are back home with the Toronto Maple Leafs in town. And listen, I won't lie, Snail. When I saw how last night ended and saw what was coming tonight, I was ready for one of those games where maybe it's close after 20, but the Pens pack it in, their tired legs, and Toronto goes on to maybe win 5-6-6-1, something like that. I did not have high hopes when the puck dropped tonight. Glad to be proven wrong, but we'll start with your thoughts on this one before we get into the scoring.
Oh yeah, I mean, I used to love watching the Penguins play Toronto because as I've stated on here many times, I love when the Pens beat Toronto. I love to see Toronto in turmoil. And tonight, I did not have high hopes. Uh, I mean, Toronto is a good team. I don't know, they have their issues. Their defense is not super great. Their goaltending is they've really patched it together over the last couple years, and I keep that in the back of my mind. But they have some high flying offense, and they've got some forward depth, which sometimes the Penguins have one or the other. They don't necessarily have the complete game to compete with a team that has offensive top 6 power plus depth. Seems like the Penguins more often than not, they either got scoring depth that shows up and the Stars do nothing, or the Stars are putting the whole team on their back, and you're essentially running 2 lines out there.
Is it just
Um,
me, or do the Maple Leafs feel like a Canadian Penguins team in a way?
they
Just younger,
do.
younger, obviously, but it feels like a lot of the Toronto problems that we hear about and see are mimic very similar to the same thing that we all complain about as Penguin fans that keep popping up the Penguins on a nightly basis.
No, you could. That's very similar issues I think going on there at times. The only thing is that the Penguins have two studs on the back end that are right shot D, and the Maple Leafs have none. But
Yeah,
even
that's fair.
goaltending a little bit. They've got that reclamation project in Ilya Samsonov, who was a high draft pick, but has yet to really solidify a full time gig in the NHL. And then that Joseph Woll, who he's kind of, I think, their goalie of the future, but he's been kind of thrown to the wolves over the last couple of years, having to maybe play a few more games than they initially intended. So coming into this game,
Yeah.
I mean, I was pessimistic. I was half glass empty. I was like, I was actually kind of bummed because I'm thinking if the Penguins lose to Toronto coming off a back-to-back, they lose however many games in a row after that winning streak that they had, which seems like a month ago now. I'm going to have to hear it from Toronto media about how the Penguins are done. What are they doing? They're probably already going to be talking about what can you get for Carlson, but that's Toronto media for you. The Penguins come in. It looked like a dogfight at first. I was like, God, these guys are going to move heaven and earth to tie this thing back up when we'll get into the scoring, but yeah, there was a little bit of a back and forth. There was a few Penguins power plays that again they soil themselves. They don't get anything done, and then they ultimately they pull off a win. And I got to tell you something. That Noel Acciari, we need two or three more players that are carbon copies of that guy. I really like that Noel Acciari's game. You know who else is growing on me is Lars Eller. I think we had American Thanksgiving, uh, and we have a sample size of games in front of you. That Lars Eller, I was kind of like I could see little glimpses of it. You know, his he seems really strong on the puck. He's good on the boards. He's got okay speed. He's not burning you, but he can move. He can move around the ice pretty well. But he's got a good shot too, man. Like he knows how to elevate that puck. A couple of his only goals this year, I feel like he's got some awesome good top corner type goals. He looks strong. He looks like one of those like sneaky strong guys. Anyways, after this game, Noel Acciari and Lars Eller, I'm impressed with them. I almost am wondering, can you throw those guys on the line together? Can you get? It's not never a bad thing to have two centers on a line, right? One's a lefty, one's a righty. They can win draws no matter which dot you're in. And then I don't care who goes on that side of them, but anyways, walking away from this game, I'm so stoked they beat the Leafs. Toronto can suck it, and yeah, that Achari, his roof job goal today, I was like, oh man, he plays with grit. He can win faceoffs. He's a dog. He hits people, and he can just lift it in tight, tuck it right under the bar. That got me so fired up, Robbie.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see those guys scoring goals, and we'll get to the recap right here, right now. Not quite as great a start as last night. It's Toronto striking first at 3:59 of the first period. Tyler Bertuzzi, his fifth of the year from John Tavares and Morgan Riley. And at this point, man, it's kind of one of those. The vibes were bad to start, and the vibes just kind of got much worse when they score early. But hey, credit the Penguins, buckled down, and 28 seconds later, it's even. Jake Gensel from Drew O'Connor and Sidney Crosby. It's 1-1 in a flash. And all of a sudden, hey, maybe things won't be so bad. Now, Toronto at 7:48 of the first, Matthew Neese gets his sixth of the year from Calle Yarncroke. It's 2-1 after a period of play. And even though I came in pessimistic, I felt a little bit better going into the first intermission, that the Penguins were at least, they did have the legs at least through that first period of play. But in the second period, um, it's pretty much dead even, still 2-1 until the 10-minute mark of the second period. Noel Acciari, who Snail just he prays on, an unassisted goal for his second of the year, a beautiful steal, a beautiful roof shot, or yeah, he went up high on the goaltender. It's 2-2. And it remains that way until late in the second period. A set face-off play. It's won back by Jeff Carter, of all people. First point of the season. He wins it clean back to Chris Letang. And I got to tell you, I know they're not going to run with it full time, but I love having Chris Letang and Erik Karlsson on the ice together at this point, because Carter wins it clean back to Letang, and Letang, a simple pass But man, you when you want a one timer from the point, you got to put it right in the wheelhouse. And this thing was right in Carlson's wheelhouse. He wound back and just unleashes a clapper on goal that finds its way in. It's 3-2 after 2 periods of play, and it again, Penguins going to the third period with the lead. It's clench time, and just under 2 minutes into the third, redeems the horn and takes a very, very bad penalty. But the Penguins, again, as much as we say that the Maple Leafs and Penguins mimic each other, the Maple Leafs power play is actually very good. But tonight they go 0 for 3. The Penguins penalty kill was huge, especially when this game was tied 2-2. And again, here early in the third, they kill off the minor. And from that point on, the Penguins lock it down to leave, get out of Pittsburgh with a 3-2 win to kind of split this weekend and make you feel a little bit better heading on the road here. But I mean, that third period out after that penalty kill, you had to like what you seen, and the Penguins really just never stopped fighting tonight, and you have to like seeing that after what we saw last night.
You got to think like Sid likes sticking it to Toronto a bit too. He grew up a Habs fan. I feel like he always likes to play the Leafs hard, and he was all over the ice tonight, just continuing to do Sid things. And I got to say one thing. I feel bad for Jeff Carter now. Like I feel a little bad for him because that guy, he's just old. Like he won that face off, and like that was I think he picks up an assist on that. But every time his line is out there, which isn't that often, they're the fourth line. That guy's just got no fight left in him. His one-on-one puck battles when he's going for the puck, he just doesn't. He just looks tired out there, man. He looks old and tired,
Yeah.
and he's got no legs anymore. We talked a couple podcasts, I believe, ago or recaps ago about Sid not really aging like other players have aged. And I don't think we're going to see just a swift drop off from him like we've seen from others. We in Pittsburgh have seen the swift drop off in Jeff Carter. I think we watched his last good year of hockey go, and now it's just the dude's just got nothing left. Like, I think they're going to continue to keep him around, obviously. At this point, they haven't done anything with his contract yet, and I don't think they're going to this season. I think they're just going to let that one they're going to continue maybe scratching him every so often, but it's almost like a mercy. Like that guy, he's just we kind of rank on him. During the off season, Jeff Carter was getting hit with shrapnel left and right on the mailbag.
Yeah.
But the guy's just got nothing left. He's got sand in his boots. He's got no piss and vinegar left in him. He just looks tired. So just let the guy have a few up in the presser, and not even like it's no offense or anything. It's like, dude, you need to go sit in an ice bath and then eat some popcorn up in the presser and get a couple of weeks in, and then when you got your game legs back, we'll put you out for 4 more minutes, and then it's another scratch. Like I just feel bad for the guy, but the fourth line's looking good. Despite that, they're contributing. I feel like that's the last few games. They're definitely not a liability. I think sometimes that Achari, like I said, I've been impressed with him. So Penguins depth has been a bright spot lately.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I have to agree on Carter. Hell of a time to win a draw about as clean as you can. Right back to Chris Letang. Whoever drew that play up, you couldn't have asked for better execution on it. Letang, the perfect guy out there to put it right in Carlson's wheelhouse, and Carlson credit for just winding up. At that point, you only got about 30 seconds left. Just letting in an absolute clapper, and then getting it by the goaltender and get that 3-2 lead, and again carrying some momentum into that third period. Also want to give a stick tap to Jansen Harkins for finally getting in the lineup after being recalled and demoted like 6 times in the past 4 days. I don't know how long the trip between Wilkes-Barre and Pittsburgh is, but gas is not cheap. So credit to him for actually getting some game time. But I mean, overall,
he looked good too. He was,
yeah,
I felt like he was aggressive out there. He was definitely engaged.
Absolutely. He only had there's a box score saying he only had 9 shifts, but I mean, he was definitely noticeable in a good way, not in a bad way, when he was on the ice. I don't mean to nitpick on this, but I don't think uh, John Ludwig is the answer on the third pairing. I know they like to keep a lefty righty down there, and Shea has been pretty much a revelation for that bottom pairing. But I think it's time that we see uh, maybe something different, and hopefully Ruedel is not out super long. But hey, nothing against the guy. I think that bottom pairing, they don't see a ton of ice time, but when they do, you don't want them getting caved in each and every time they're on the ice. But and credit again tonight to Tristan Jarry as well. 34 saves on 36 shots. That's now I'd say two um, prime performances, grade A performances in a row from Jarry. Now it's just tonight the offense was able to back him up and get something, give him a little help on the scoreboard. But I mean, it's two games isn't a lot to write home about, but with Tristan Jarry, I think you really have to appreciate what you've seen his last two outings.
No, it's never been for a lack of effort with Jari, and I'll continue to say that. He battles out there, but this team at times they just hang him out to dry. And uh, right now, the goaltending. When was the last time in Pittsburgh? And I know it's probably pretty easy to actually recall who it was, but it feels like it's been a while. These two goalies are looking strong right now in the first, whatever quarter of the season. I think you got a real case for both of them starting in net. Like at this point, like who, I think you throw each one of them out there and you got an equally good chance to come home with a dub. It's just the play in front of them, man. That's what's really killing them. But Ned's looking strong as well as Jars. They're both looking good. And like I said, it's been a while since the Penguins have had two goalies that maybe they feel like they can really count on any given night.
Yeah, I can't really recall the last time I felt this good about, at the very least, the Penguins backup. There was a spell where I felt good about with Casey DeSmith a couple years, like almost pre-COVID. I really thought Casey DeSmith was maybe a permanent backup option, and then after COVID, he kind of he would have like I saw him. I was in person at a game, I believe, in like December 2001. They played Anaheim in Pittsburgh, and he pitched a 1-0 shutout, and he was spectacular. And again, he'd have those games where he'd look unbeatable, and then he'd have a stretch of 3 or 4 where he just looked like, man, if the offense doesn't score like at least 3 or 4 tonight, there's no way they're winning this hockey game. But no, I feel completely at ease with the goaltending situation now. Again, that could change in a flash, but I think at the very least, I'm very satisfied with Nedeljkovic as the backup, and getting more than his fair share of starts. Maybe giving him a better look. We talked about that, I believe, on Sunday after he had a shutout. So yeah, after shutting out the Golden Knights of all teams, we talked about giving him more of a look and goal, and you knew he was going to get one of these two games, and he unfortunately got the game where the Penguins just let up and let it back. You can't blame that loss on him. But I think overall now, if you look at the last 4 games, you've had 4 really good goaltending performances.
You have, and it's a bright spot right now. There's only a few of those kind of humming around the Penguins as of late, and the goaltending is fortunately, coming into the season, it was hard to. I mean, I think some of us were kind of scratching our head like one of Dubas's moves was re-signing Jari, and then getting Magnus Hellberg and Nedeljkovic. I think it's kind of like, well, they're goalies, but like, I don't really know what we're expecting. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that DeSmith's having a pretty good season over in Vancouver under Tocchet, I think, right now. Um, you were mentioning DeSmith, and like my first Penguin game I ever saw in person, DeSmith was goaltending on
Okay.
December 6th. Says yeah, December 6th, 2021. Here in Seattle, where the Penguins were missing like Malkin, they were missing a bunch of guys. I think yeah, they had Erod in the lineup.
Oh
Uh,
wow, yeah.
Kapanen, Heinen, Bluger, Aston Reese, and Dominique Simone. And the Penguins absolutely spanked the Kraken 6-1, and DeSmith looked like Marty Brodeur in his prime. So,
Yeah.
just some happy memories there of old number one in net. But you were mentioning, like, when's the last time you felt this confident in the Penguins' goaltending depth? How confident were you when Louis Domingue had a belly full of spicy pork and broccoli and he helped beat the Rangers in like quadruple overtime or whatever it was?
That was just such a long night. I can't believe that. Yeah, that was such a crazy night. And what a game that was. But again, going back to the goaltending depth there, if DeSmith doesn't get hurt, as much as I was 50-50 on DeSmith a lot of the time, I think the Penguins take that series in 5, maybe 6 games. Domingue there was just some saves that he did not make that he needed to make that DeSmith, I think, would have made, that cost the Penguins that series in the long haul, because the Penguins really did dominate long stretches of that series. It just a save here or there makes a huge difference. But um, again, Domingue will always be a Penguins legend simply for the spicy pork and broccoli. Because of everything I would not want to eat if I was a goaltender, it would probably be something, anything spicy, and then
Definitely spicy food.
some like sketchy street Chinese food off of like the back alley in New York City somewhere. It's probably the last thing that I'd want to ingest before having to go out and do any kind of sporting activity. So I credit Louis Domingue for that. But yeah, I mean, it still gives me the stomach gurgles just trying to think about having to digest that while playing a hockey game.
Dude, for real, that's like I think about him when I need strength. Like I'll be in like a tough situation and I'll be like,
Louis
dude,
Domingue did it with spicy pork and broccoli. I can get through whatever this is.
no,
Yeah.
totally. It's like, well, he went into like a playoff series and they were in overtime with no goaltenders
Yep.
and he had a belly full of New York City, probably back alley spicy pork and
Yeah.
broccoli in his belly. Like he probably had a diaper on for
Yeah,
like
because I
that.
mean, if he goes out, they have no other goaltenders, so they pretty much needed him to hold down the fort in that game, and he did. But yeah, good time reminiscing about that. Always, he'll
The
forever be a
goaltending depth is fortunately stronger than it was, I think,
yes,
that night. But we felt good. That was the whole point of that rant. Was
yes,
just like we
yes,
felt good after that. It was like maybe
yep,
Louis can do this, but
yeah.
we don't have to worry about that. We got
We
Ned's
do,
looking
yes.
strong.
Ned looked,
Hellberg's been strong too. Like the goaltending depth. I said it. I think with Dubas's forward depth really being tested. The injury bug finally hitting the Penguins. His goaltending depth has been tested, and it's been fine.
yep, absolutely. All right, before wrapping up here, let's take a peek at what is coming up. The Penguins now have 2 days off, Sunday and Monday, but they were preparing to head on the road first to Nashville to take on the Predators on Tuesday night. That is an 8 p.m. Eastern time puck drop 5 out where Snail is in Seattle. So, yeah, a little bit later, but not too bad. Then they head to Tampa Bay on Thursday to wrap up November with their first meeting with the Lightning on the season. Tampa Bay, again, all is good, all is going to be right there. And then on Saturday, December 2nd, they are back home in Pittsburgh for a showdown, a battle of Pennsylvania with the Philadelphia Flyers. This is actually the first game of a home and home that will be completed the next week. This one is in Pittsburgh. It is at 7 o'clock, so it's a Saturday night game again a week from now. And this is a Philly game. And Philly, as bad as we thought they were going to be, are pretty feisty this year. So should be an entertaining game. It usually always is in that rivalry. So that's how this week's shaping up. And before I send you away, we were going to do a Thanksgiving type episode, but we never got around to it. Some schedules got mixed up. So we'll start here with Snail. Snail, how was your Thanksgiving?
My Thanksgiving was awesome. It was low key. My parents actually took off for Mexico
Oh,
the bright and early the morning after Thanksgiving, and it was pretty much just. I mean, we all ate or whatever, but it was very informal. Also, the Seahawks were playing on
oh,
Thanksgiving, so We slaved over hot stoves in the morning and then sat down and watched the Seattle Seahawks just absolutely stink the joint out against Brock Purdy and the 49ers. God, Geno Smith is not that good right now. He's banged up. Brock Purdy is him.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know that was a disappoint. That was disappointing. But dude, honestly, it was pretty chill. I kind of like when Thanksgiving's a little bit like informal. Like it's kind of nice to just like because I do a lot of cooking actually in our for the Thanksgivings the last few years. My sister does a lot of the cooking as well over at my parents' house and.
Okay.
Anyways, yeah, it was awesome. It was good. I stuffed myself. My plate. I got to go over the rundown quickly of what's
Yeah,
on my
go
plate.
ahead. I want to know
Um,
how a vegan does Thanksgiving.
So yeah, I made an. I don't know about you, but we have mac and cheese at our Thanksgivings for the last few years.
I mean, I'm always pro mac and cheese. We do not have it at our Thanksgiving, but I'm always pro mac and cheese.
So that's kind of my thinking is like pro mac and cheese and like some we used to do scallop potatoes. So I think the mac and
Okay.
cheese has kind of supplemented the scallop
Oh yeah,
potatoes.
yeah,
So I made an awesome homemade vegan mac and cheese, and then I did the stuffing as well. Just bags. I didn't get all
yeah,
fancy with that. Just bagged croutons essentially, some from Whole
yeah.
Foods, and I made a little bit of a broth, cut up some onion, celery, whatever. I got that going, delicious. And then I made gravy too. I just a really simple vegan gravy, which I make all the time. I eat poutine a lot at home, and if I'm not eating poutine straight up, I'm just putting French fries in the air fryer and just dipping it in this gravy.
Yeah, no,
Delicious.
yeah.
The Canadians have that right. Is just dumbing French fries with gravy. So mac and cheese and uh, stuffing is the majority of my plate. It takes up 3/4 of my plate.
Yeah, I
And
don't
then I
blame.
had a little slice of tofurkey on there with the brown rice, whatever they got going there. It's like a
Mhm.
brown rice stuffing type deal, wild rice stuffing. And then a little bit of mashed potatoes. And then my mom made like a cucumber pasta salad thing, which wasn't really like it's not a typical thing we'd ever have, but it was kind of nice. It was like a little bit cold. It was cold, served cold, and like
Oh, okay, yeah,
put a little bit of that on the side, and then everything just has like a healthy, even things that you wouldn't put gravy on, gravy's going on it.
yeah,
And then I
yeah.
had
I understand that.
and then to wash it all down, I had a couple of Colorado Kool-Aids, a few Coors Lights,
Ah,
and then I was making these. It's a pretty easy thing to make, but they're called a Toronto Mule instead of a Moscow Mule, and it's a Crown Royal with
ooh.
ginger beer and ice, and
Oh
it's
yeah, you did send me a video on Instagram of you making that, and I couldn't
yeah,
quite. I was like, "What is the alcohol?" And I thought you were doing a shot, and I'm like, and then I saw the ginger beer. I'm like, whatever the alcohol is, I'm sure that's pretty good with a ginger beer. But yeah, if it's Crown and ginger, I'm sure that is very, very, very good.
it's very good, very refreshing with the ice cubes in there.
Yeah,
I had a ton of drinks that night. My acid reflux was firing off. I woke up in the middle of the night so like dehydrated,
yeah,
but it was a good Thanksgiving, man. How was yours? And what was on your
good.
plate?
Good. Big family gathering. We have like 17 people at ours. It's a little extended family too. And I will say, like, I know that people might be like tofurkey, blah, but I think that like with how spread veganism is now, I think the quality of food has vastly improved the last decade. Like a
Oh yeah.
tofurkey, probably you can probably get away with saying that it's very close to a regular turkey like flavor. Vegan mac and cheese, I'm sure. Again, I would eat mac and cheese. I love homemade mac and cheese, especially. I'm sure that whatever substitutes you use for the milk and the cheese are completely fine. The stuffing is, I mean, unless you're using broth, there's no. I mean, you can get vegetarian broth though.
Oh
That's
yeah.
no. Yeah, so and mashed potatoes are mashed potatoes. I mean, so yours is definitely a very quality. I definitely approve of that plate. But my plate was basically the same thing as yours, except with turkey.
There you go.
And swap out the mac and cheese for green bean casserole.
Oh,
Um,
there you go.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we did the stuffing, the mashed potatoes, turkey, green bean casserole, and one of my family members, I'm not sure who it was, brought these. They were just carrots roasted in a garlic. I don't want to call it gravy because it was sweeter, but it was like carrot glaze, except they were
Mm.
like soaking in them, and I
Oh,
and the garlic, and it was like minced garlic too. It was really. I'm gonna have to try to find the recipe because overall,
sounds
I wasn't sure. I only
delicious.
took a couple just to try them, and I loved them. And yeah, so mine is basically your. Our Thanksgiving is about as traditional a Thanksgiving as you can possibly find.
So do you get are you a light meat or a dark meat guy?
I if I had to choose, I would choose dark meat, but we have plenty of both, so I do mix between the two. Like if I had to, I like the moisture of the dark meat better than the dry. But when you have
Yeah.
gravy, I mean, I just dunk everything in gravy, so it doesn't make much of a difference anyway.
How much
But
gravy do you think how much gravy you put on your plate?
um, sufficient.
Sufficient.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, I don't drown it
It's
because
not
I
soup.
no, no, no. I don't like to make my stuff soggy before I get to it. I just it's sufficient for me. Um, yeah, I make sure it's on. Again, like you said, it's Thanksgiving. Gravy's going on anything, whether or not it belongs there or not.
100%.
Outside of the pie, it's going on. My gravy's going on everything. And you mentioned poutine. It's where I'm from. It's very hard to find good poutine,
Mm.
but when you find good poutine, I would, yeah, I completely get where you're coming with the poutine because it is a phenomenal dish. Canada, thank you for that.
For real. It's
Yeah,
not even, isn't it the French Canadians too?
I think it may have originated in Quebec, but again, you can get it anywhere in Canada. I know that. And at first, I'm like, that doesn't, and then you find out it really all it is French fries, gravy, and cheese curds. And how do you not like?
Dude.
Nothing about that sounds bad.
No, it's like it's just it's you're hitting like a lot of serotonin boosters in one plate. Dude, I think I've told it before, but there's this bar that when at my old house there was a bar down the hill from where I lived. It was called the Moose. And in Washington, you can get poutine. Like it's not. I think it's
Oh
close enough
yeah,
to
I could see
Canada
that.
that it's
Yeah,
like it's not like unheard of. This
yeah.
little dive bar down the street from my house had this poutine you could get, and their secret ingredient they use these Beecher's cheese curds, and then you could get your choice of like two types of gravy. I always before I was vegan, I just give me the darkest one
Yeah, yeah,
with the
absolutely.
cheese curds, and then they're like I said, their secret ingredient was a smoked brisket piled on top
Oh
of it.
man, that's not even. That's like that's almost cheating when it comes to man. I lied. You start putting brisket. Brisket's one of those like gravy at Thanksgiving. Just put it where it doesn't. It can go on anything, whether it belongs there or not.
Oh my God,
Oh man,
dude.
I
That
love this. Yeah.
accompanied by, and they used to have this like odd beer there that was like a Molson Ice. So it's like not even a typical Molson. It's like an
Yeah.
ice Molson.
Yeah.
Dude, that year I was like, I had never been heavier. Like I was going like every Friday. It's like, oh, I know what I'm having for dinner.
I'm
I'd
having
get,
poutine and
I'm
yeah.
having poutine and a few Molson Ices, and I'd be so sweaty the next day. I just was like sweaty all the time. Oh, it was like, have you ever had the meat sweats?
Yeah, it's a real thing. It's a
It
real thing.
is. Oh,
Yeah.
it is. I would get it all the time from that because the brisket, they're not putting like, croutons of brisket on there. They're like like just putting
Yeah.
slabs of it in there.
Yeah.
Phenomenal stuff. But yeah, the Canadians definitely do the, if you think about it, the poutine thing makes a ton of sense because just like mashed potatoes and gravy is just a proven it's like Sid and Jake Gensel. Like they just work together.
Yeah,
It's just
absolutely.
like potatoes and gravy. So,
And
French
all
fries.
fries are is fried mashed potatoes, basically. I mean, they're nothing. Again, the fries are key too because you can get soggy fries. You got to have a good fry on there. But again, you put gravy on about anything, it's going to be edible, in some form or
Totally.
fashion.
To that quickly before we can get off the poutine talk. I'm getting so hungry just talking about this. But dude, when I make poutine at home, I've found that the best fries for poutine is waffle fries. Never
I
seen that
could
at a
see that. I
restaurant.
love fry. I love waffle fries too.
Waffle fries are just phenomenal. They keep, especially when you crisp them up nice with that gravy, they never get soggy, and they're almost like a nacho. Like it's almost like you get a little bit of like a
All
nacho
right,
cheat
yeah,
like
you could
action
like pick
thing.
it. You could pick it up and eat it
You
like
can
you're
kind of
almost
pick it up,
dipping it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
I got you there.
sometimes you got to use the fork and knife for the poutine, but sometimes when you use the right French fry, it's just like nachos.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Anyway,
your Thanksgiving sounded awesome. I mean, did you have any drinks? Did you get into any beverages, spirits, and whatnot?
so I was up early to help cook, and I passed out at like 7, and I was like tapping out. I'm like, I can't. I'm exhausted. Uh, I did have a little wine when I came home.
There you go.
Um, some that I had that I so. Other than that, nothing. Nothing crazy. Your drink though, I'm gonna have to try because that looked. Um, what'd you say? Toronto Mule is what you called it.
Yeah, there's one hockey bar in the state of Washington, and I don't count the 32 Kraken bar and grill that they implemented at the ice complex. I don't count that. But there is one legit hockey bar. It was opened by a bunch of brothers from Toronto in a little neighborhood in north of Seattle. It's called the Angry Beaver. It's phenomenal. It's an awesome place to go. If you're ever in Seattle, I like demand you go there because it's just got all the charm in the world, and these three Canadian dudes run the hell out of it. But they've got this thing on there. During when the pandemic, the shortened season finally came back. I was going to watch bubble games there, and I was
Oh
turned
yeah.
on to I was turned on to this Toronto Mule, and it's pretty simple. They do it up a little bit more. I think they put maybe some more bitters into it or like some
Okay.
mint. But yeah, it's Crown Royal. It doesn't have to be just Canadian whiskey, a good ginger beer, and ice. And like if you've got the copper mug, you got to use it. But I didn't have one, so I
Yeah.
improvised. But
Yeah. So if I
phenomenal
ever
drink.
come out there, it sounds like I know where you're gonna take me.
Yes, exactly. We're going to the Angry Beaver, and dude, that'd be awesome. I think you guys would. Do you guys have hockey bars in Pittsburgh?
We have just sports bars in general that cover like all whatever sport you want to watch there. I mean, I'm sure there's some like, yeah, I don't know. Pittsburgh loves its sports so much. I think they're just mostly sports bars in general. But like down here, like you'll have Penguins, Pirates, Steelers, Pitt, Penn State. Like you'll have everything. So we have more like just general sports bars rather than like specific hockey bars. Now there might be one or two here or there that just are more hockey themed. I know there's one former Penguins goaltender Ken Reggett opened a bar just outside the city. Um, it's called 31, which was his number in Pittsburgh, and it's like a sports bar, but it's like hockey themed, obviously, because he played. So
Like hockey
like
centric more.
hockey centric. Yeah, he like a lot of hockey memorabilia and stuff like that. Again, you can watch any sport there, but it's definitely more of a hockey vibe, I guess you could say.
That's awesome. Yeah, before the Kraken were here, I mean, dude, there was nowhere you could really go to catch a hockey
Yeah,
game like on TV. Like you were better off just like ordering whatever packages you could at home and watching them there. But um, anyways, yeah, I'm sure there's probably like hockey centric bars out in Pittsburgh. But I guess if you have hockey in your hometown already, there almost isn't really that much of a need for it because it's just one of the major sports that's on TV all the time. Whereas out here, I mean, you'd have to like really kind of dig around and find which sport bars have the packages to where you'd have to go request it and be like, hey, I'm trying to catch this game. Can you put that on? And sometimes they might be like, nah, there's football on. We're not competing with that. You'd be the only person, and it's just like, well, I'm going home.
absolutely. But before we leave here, one question: did you see the Jacob Truba incident from earlier today?
From today?
Yeah,
No, but did he just? I just saw a thing on my phone. Did he just get fined?
yeah. Let me. I'm gonna. Do, I have to. Oh no, I have to. I'm gonna send it to you.
So it says here that the NHL player safety fined Jacob Truba for the max allowable under the CBA for high sticking. Boston's Trent Frederick, who's a prick, he probably had that coming, but both of those guys are complete jerks on the ice. So I gotta see here what
I just sent you the video.
is it on?
I sent it to you on Twitter in a DM.
Oh, okay. All right, let's take a look at this. For Oh my God.
That's the reaction I thought I'd get.
Dude, and Trent Frederick is just like
Yeah,
boing, like,
Frederick's a rat too, but like, I mean, buddy, you can't. I mean, even if it's quote unquote accidental, what are we doing here,
you
guys?
know what this is? This is great, I think, because I hate Truba. I take him on my team though, but Truba is always like whenever he's out laying guys out, knocking dudes unconscious, people are like, "Well, it's a clean hit. He's the cleanest big hitter in the game." But he's a scumbag deep down, and this is finally evidence that he's a prick. He tries to catch dudes with their heads down. He's trying to, you're allowed to, I guess, if it's a legal hit, but he looks for the vulnerable. And this hit right here, he basically, for those listening, if they haven't seen it by the time this comes out, he full on Ken Griffey Jr., Gary Sheffield baseball swings this Trent Frederick in the helmet and tries to knock his head into the fifth row. I mean, dude, how a fine? If anyone else did that, I feel like it'd be like if Tom Wilson did that, he'd be out of the league. It'd
Yeah,
be another 50, like a 40, whatever, 41 game suspension. That is absolutely disgusting. It's like Phil Kessel on John Scott times like a lot more. Phil Kessel was whacking John Scott's ankles. This dude, the play is like ongoing, and he just absolutely swings for the fences on this kid's head. Holy moly!
but
Holy
yeah, so that's the fine that he got there. I just didn't know if you'd seen it yet because Jacob Truba not a very well liked person in the Penguin circles, but yeah, didn't know if you saw that yet or not.
Holy crap, dude! That was shocking to see.
Yeah,
5,000. It's yeah, $5,000 for trying to kill a guy. That is,
yeah,
if I've ever seen intent to injure, that's there it is.
yeah. But Snail, you got anything before we wrap this up on the Penguins' last two games or anything else?
No, I guess just quickly though, like Brian Rust has been listed day to day, and we haven't seen him for a
That's
few
true.
games.
Yeah,
Can we expect Rust to come back anytime soon, or do you think this is maybe more of a longer term thing? Do we know what really even happened to Rust?
I can't. It's one of those lower body, upper body type situations. They don't give you much more than that. He's not on IR. He was practicing on Thursday before they head to Buffalo. So I don't think it's serious. I do not think it's long term. I think they probably just wanted to, without having to throw him into back to backs, give him a little extra time to heal. Would not be surprised if we see him Tuesday night. Yeah, Tuesday night in Nashville, Thursday at the latest in Tampa, unless something changes. But I'm not too concerned because he did get an MRI, and if it again, I thought it was pretty serious when you're getting MRIs and stuff, but it sounds like he was back at practice um, in about as close to full capacity as you can get on
Okay.
Thursday. So I expect him back this week at some point.
I gotta add, dude, Alex Nylander or whatever, he's not him. I see
Nah,
why he's bounced around. I got excited about him a couple of times. I was like, well, maybe under Sully's system and with Malkin he'll be awesome. But I see why he doesn't really crack the NHL lineup on most nights. He's not his
he's
brother.
he's an AHL guy, and he'll be a star down there, score a bunch of goals. But he clearly, if there's a level between the NHL and the AHL, that's probably about exactly where he'd be. He's probably too good for the AHL, but he's just not quite an NHL player. Which, unfortunate, they took a flyer on him, got him for cheap anyway. So
Yeah,
it's really
just
too
some
bad
bad.
he's not his brother.
No, I know, because that would be a whole different conversation, and we'd be looking at probably having to let him go because we couldn't afford him because he's
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely
if they want to
killing it.
change uniforms just to see if they see maybe they need to change the scenery. I don't know. Cal Dubas
Yeah.
is friends with Cal Dubas is close with, and that's another thing we didn't even talk about. I mean, it had to feel good tonight for Cal Dubas uh,
Oh
getting that
yeah,
win.
we didn't even mention that yet. Kyle
Yeah,
Dubas playing his old team in his new barn in his what he called feels like home Pittsburgh. Did you hear him say that?
yeah, that's a pretty uh, kind of a knife in the side kind of little
Oh,
nice little ribbing there. Um,
he's like a
but
Toronto. He's a Sault Ste. Marie guy or whatever,
Yeah,
isn't he?
he's not I mean he's not from downtown Toronto, but he's not exactly far. He was basically brought up through the system to be groomed to be a front office guy, and now he's in Pittsburgh, and yeah, to hear him say that is actually kind of I'm sure there'll be like, if you tune into Toronto Sports Talk on Monday, there'll probably be like entire segments dedicated to just that comment. But
Oh yeah, dude,
good for
Monday is
good for
going to be
Dubas.
awesome for
Yeah,
sports talk. I cannot wait to hear. I'm going to tune
yeah.
into TSN and listen to those guys whine about that game.
Good for Dubas getting a little measure of revenge for how it all played out. But I got nothing else. The Penguins are back in action on Tuesday. Snell and I will be back for a recap after that one. We will have a
Oh yeah, mailbag.
if the questions are there, we should have at least 2 mailbags this week. If not, we'll definitely have at least one. Any word from Brian?
Brian, actually, there is word from Brian, and
Oh,
not to give away too much, but it sounds like
ooh,
our buddy Brian is on vacation.
ah,
He's Wait, never mind. He's not. I thought he said something about being on vacation. Uh, he just yeah. I guess we still don't. I read this comment and I was like, oh, he's in Switzerland right now. But he said he's in Switzerland regarding an argument, which we know is different than being physically located in
yeah.
Switzerland. So don't know where Brian's at. I'm sure. How many questions in the mailbag do you think are going to be related to the power play?
Let's see. Let's say we're gonna get 25 questions. I'm gonna say at least 7.
Yeah, I would say like a good chunk of them would be. I think that is the question, like
Yeah,
going
yeah, that's true.
forward.
What do you do about the power play? I think that's a fair. It's just going to be the same question, just worded 7 different ways, and we'll have to put our intake in on that. But um, yeah,
Are we
so
ever going to see Garrett again?
I
Is he
mean,
still with
I don't
us?
know if he's still around somewhere. I mean, the episodes are getting out somehow, so he must be working at some. He must be doing work at some point. We'll see if Garrett, if you listen to this episode, please contact either I or Snell via text message to make sure you're still alive and going to come back at some point so you can grace this podcast once again with your wonderful insight on the Pittsburgh Penguins. But
Garrett, if you're
yeah,
out there, give us a sign.
yeah, put up a smoke signal. We'll get you. But that's about all we got for the night. The Penguins, they lose 3-2 to Buffalo on Friday night. They come back and they beat the Maple Leafs Saturday night by the same score of 3-2. So they split the weekend back to back 1-1. They are 10 dead even 10-10 on the season. This week they head out. They head south for a road trip to Nashville and Tampa Bay, and then the Battle of Pennsylvania resumes on this season. So for Snail, I'm Robbie. We will talk to you guys next week and pay attention for our recap and our mailbag at the beginning of the week, and we will talk to you guys later on.